Hey, amazing people. What we're going to do now is we're going to sketch the graph of a couple of exponential functions here. Now, the first one we have is f of x is equal to 3 to the power of x. Now, there's a few things we need to include when we're doing our graph. So if we consider our Cartesian plane here, what we're going to do is we're going to graph this. Now, where it's going to pass through the y-axis is going to be at x equals 1. That's going to be at that point here. And as it approaches, it's going to be close to the x-axis, but not touching it because the x-axis is an asymptote. And then it's going to be increasing and then getting steeper and steeper once it passes through the y-axis. Now, one other key thing here is we need to make sure we are including the asymptote, which we can do with a broken line along the x-axis. And a couple of other things we need to include. So we have the y-intercept here. This is going to be 1, which we need to make sure we include, but we also must make sure that we include some other values as well. So in particular, a value we would need to include here is something representing where it's passing through. Now in this case here, I'm going to choose the point of 3. This is where we let x equal 1, and in that case we have f of 1 is equal to 3 to the power of 1, which is 3. So that's going to be at this point here, which is going to be 1, and that then intercepts with the graph at y equals 3. Now in the second example of y equals 2 to the power of x plus 1, this curve is going to be very, very similar to the one we've just done. However, there's going to be a couple of changes. One thing, because of this plus 1 value here, what this is going to do is this is going to take the curve and it's just going to shift it up by 1. And so what that means is the asymptote is going to move from the x-axis and is going to shift up to where y equals 1. Now this is also going to shift where the y-intercept is, so it's going to go from y equals 1 now up to y equals 2 as part of that. Apart from that, we can just graph this now and we can start to draw it in. Now, one other key detail here, which I want to include, is what happens when x equals 1. So at that point here, where we've got x equals 1, well, that's going to be 2 to the 1 plus 1. That's just going to be equal to 3. So we can see we've got y equals 3 when we let x equals 1. So that's going to be the other value we include here, which is where it passes through. So remember to include this value on your graph as well. So this is going to be 1, 3. Just like on the first one, we should have included it of 1, 3.